9 hikers were found dead, some naked, their eyes missing, their tongues ripped out, and high levels of radiation were found on their clothing. This was the last photograph that they took. This is a silent film in which many actors died by a malicious director. Their final moments were then shown in theaters around the world. The footage was thought to have been lost until it was rediscovered years later. This is the most bizarre Holocaust film ever made. It's about a slapstick clown trying to survive a concentration camp. It was never supposed to be seen by the public, but as rumor has it, it's going to be released any day now. All of these pieces of media belong to a subgenre known as lost film. This is content lost to time, often with occult and morbid backstories. And today, I'm going through my favorites. That's right. I picked out my top stories, and I'm going to be explaining to you all the strange, bizarre, and dark details behind all of them. And who better to join me than my dear friend Casey Rocket. Yes, you know Casey. He's brilliant. He's funny. But not only that, he's an expert in the paranormal. And at the very end, he even tells us his most bizarre and strange personal experience with the supernatural. So, sit back, relax, and welcome to camp. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to camp. This is the show where I explain some of the most interesting, fascinating, and darkest mysteries to my dumbest friends. Today, we got a real special one. This guy is actually not one of my dumbest friends, but he has told me many years ago that he never made it as a wise man. So maybe he's not as wise as we all thought. All right, today we have Casey Rocket in the tent.
Wee. Happy to be here.
English. You have to do English for this show.
Wee. I found a small wrench. I was balancing it on the table in a rather peculiar manner. And right before we started, he slammed the table, throwing my wrench to the floor and putting me in quite a mood. So we're going to have to see how this goes.
Sorry. No, I'm sorry, Casey. I'm sorry.
I'm walking.
Were you doing tiny work with that? What were you doing?
I was doing tiny work for tiny hands. It's this new charity I run for small dudes with big wives.
Oh, that's nice.
Big wives, big brains, big donations, Papa John's. So it should be pretty fun.
You were in New York City for this weekend because
Yes.
you were doing Madison Square Garden.
Doing Madison Square Garden. It was so fun. I don't know when that's going to come out, so I don't know how much I can say about it, but it was so fun. We had the time of our lives. I had a pizza slice every day, and I made 100 new friends.
Oh, wow.
And
Exactly 100.
It's about the friends you make along the way.
That's exactly right. I like that. That's the first mystery we needed to get through.
Figure out how many friends I made.
Exactly. That was mystery number one that we were going to figure out.
It's not about the love you make. It's not about the love you take. It's about the love you make. George Harrison.
Along the way.
Along the way.
Exactly.
It's not about the riffs along the road. It's about how big the highway is along the riff.
Exactly.
Route.
And the road to heaven?
I'm on the road to nowhere, David Byrne. So
You're on the open road. Towns Van Zandt. Right? Now we're talking. Now we're riffing.
my days, they are the highway kind. Towns Van Zandt. The second Towns Van Zandt highway
Wow,
side.
look at you.
So,
Like, he's got a lot of highway tracks. He's like a real...
Literally, the white Freightliner blues. My days, they are the highway. We'll talk about it later.
He's like a modern day Rascal Flatts.
He was a road dog. And funny thing about Towns is he came from a very privileged background, and he ended up very impoverished because he was a true artist.
Did he kill himself?
With alcohol, he drank himself to death.
After hearing this, he'll probably end it. Today we're... This is how you're going to tell me? What the...
Dude, it was 30 years ago.
Golly, dude.
I can't keep coddling you.
Today we're talking about the greatest mysteries on the entire internet. Basically the greatest mysteries in media. Maybe the greatest mysteries ever to happen in history. The mysteries of history. This is a subgenre of YouTube that I got into recently called lost film.
Yes.
I had never heard of this before outside of like a couple weeks ago. I've heard like random stories within the genre, but I just started getting into these wormholes watching these videos, and it was blowing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
I had planned to do an episode on lost film, the craziest lost film stories ever. I mean, like random things, like even like lost like mystery things, like Cicada. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
What was it? Cicada 3301?
3301.
Yeah.
The So Joanna book.
That is one that I don't know, and I know I told him before we started. I said I'll be happy if you stump me because I know tons of mysteries.
I even have my own story of lost film. I had an episode
Really?
of this program they got corrupted by witches. I'll explain it to you. I know you're not going to believe it. It's 100% true, and I'll explain that in a little bit.
You'd be surprised. I believe a lot of witch-related news.
Do you follow many of
You
them?
would be shocked how much witch things I end up believing. It's hundreds.
I didn't know what lost film was. Basically, the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is why I'm so excited that we did this. I was telling you before, I wanted to do this episode, and then I was like, oh, who's in town this weekend? And I was like, oh, shit, Casey Rocket's here. I have a very strong hunch that you are going to be an expert in all things cryptid.
Yes.
All things mysterious.
Yes.
All things erotic. Fanciful.
Erotic.
Wait, what?
Fanciful. ufological.
Yep.
I'm a big subscriber to the writings of John A. Keel, which covers all angles of esoteria and ultra-terrestrials in the sense of transdimensional beings.
Is it true you're a follower of Aleister Crowley?
Crowleyan sex magic, yes. Chaos magic, things of that nature. Dark arts that can be attributed to intentions and also spellcraft.
Fabulous. So it seems like you're going to be an expert in this field that we're going to discuss today. Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt this amazing program, but I need a little bit of help. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see our subscriber number right down here. And if you're able to, it would mean the world if you could subscribe. That is the best way to support this show, because when you subscribe, I'm able to show it to potential guests or to different brands and stuff like that. And it really, really helps grow the show, get us cooler guests, have cooler conversations, and it helps everything so much. So if you don't mind, thank you so much. Let's get back to it. Lost media refers to any form of content, maybe film, audio, television, video games, literature, or any other type of media that was once publicly available or known to exist that has since become difficult or impossible to access. This is hard to fathom nowadays because everything is forever. The internet's for all time. You upload something, even if you take it down, someone's got a copy somewhere. But for most of human history and for most of the time that content existed, the shit gets lost. It gets corrupted. People misplace it. It gets destroyed, and it doesn't exist anymore. And what's interesting about these pieces that we're going to talk about today is the stories that surround them. Mystery.
Yes.
Murder, crime, seduction, love. All of that and more.
Oh, my God. I am so excited to get into some of these mysteries.
Right?
And also learn about them, too.
This is going to be delicious.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some famous examples. I mean, we can go all the way back to the Library of Alexandria. The OG lost media.
Yes.
3rd century BC, Alexandria, Egypt. There's a library full of basically every great work of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking Aristotle, Epictetus, Homer, Euclid. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it.
Epictetus, one of my favorite authors.
Are you a Stoic?
When it comes to hepatitis, you better believe I am.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you were such a Stoic.
Epitarlin. He's one of the smartest dudes I've ever seen. So I would have loved to read his poems. So pretty cool.
Well, you never will.
Sad they're gone.
It's a shame. It's a shame. They all burned away in a fire. Some people actually don't even think it was a fire. That's what's crazy. I talked to a guy on this program. He said it wasn't a fire at all. He was like, honestly, I think that people just stopped like copying it, and then the paper just eroded, and then there was just no more library. It wasn't even a fire at all.
Probably wouldn't have even been around anyways because it's so damn old.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But there's many things like that, even through the years. I mean, there was a famous MGM vault fire that happened in 1965. The vault catches on fire, and they lose hundreds of, basically like the whole silent film era. Some people estimate that 75% of all silent films gone forever.
Wow, because they were the original prints.
Yep.
That happens with music, too. It happened not that long ago. There was a big fire at maybe Paramount Records, some records, RCA. They lost the original prints of a lot of music.
So apparently with this, they thought that it wasn't as valuable to keep the films after the theatrical run. Once it was done in theaters, they were like, well, what are we going to do with this bullshit? Yeah. And tape was so expensive, they just re-recorded over the tape.
Well, these things happen all the time. It happened with Event Horizon, the Paul W.S. Anderson movie, not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson did all the Resident Evil movies, a lot of the bad video game movies. But he did this great horror movie called Event Horizon with Sam Neill, Jurassic Park. And a lot of it is lost because they threw away the negatives with film. These things happen all the time.
Wow.
Fun fact about 1998's Event Horizon. So
We're doing deep cut film facts
you
here.
guys are keeping track.
Yeah, no. This is actually a big. My audience is really, really into Event Horizon.
I would imagine.
They're like diehard, so I think that's gonna be perfect. The first thing I want to discuss with you, this is maybe my favorite. This is like borderline lost media, but it is probably my favorite. I would say unsolved or unexplained event ever in history. This is a time when 9 hikers got lost in Russia. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with this?
The Dyatlov Pass incident? Is that what
Oh
you're talking
my
about?
goodness. This is my favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
You're familiar with this, of course.
I can chime in on this for sure. Fill them in.
For anyone that doesn't know, this is a time when 9 hikers got lost in Russia, all right? There's a photograph that I'm actually going to put on screen right now. There's a blurry photograph of a man in the distance in the woods. This is the last photograph that was taken from one of the cameras of one of the hikers. The hikers were never seen again after they went hiking, and their bodies were discovered, missing eyeballs, tongues ripped out, traumatic injuries, missing clothes. Some of them were basically naked. Some of them were in other people's clothes, many of them barefoot. And the strangest part of all, radiation was all over their bodies.
Yes.
It's pretty weird to me, Casey.
It is weird. It's
Pretty
startling.
strange. It's pretty strange. So let's get into the details. 1959, 10 hikers. They're basically all students. Most of them are pretty young. Very ambitious, very experienced hikers. All of them basically have level 2 hiking proficiency. Level 3 is the highest. And after they were going to do this trek, they were going to get their level 3 proficiency. They all set out. They had the most high-tech equipment of the day. They were all extremely competent. They had a great plan. And off they went.
Yes.
Immediately, Yuri Yudin, he's one of the hikers, begins to get joint pain, feels sick, can't go on. After a couple hours of hiking, he goes, "Guys, I'm going back." This choice saved his life. The other 9, they continued onward, and immediately they started, having problems. They had a difficult time navigating. There was reduced visibility. The snowstorm was just battering them. They were just getting absolutely cooked. You're going hiking in the middle of Russian winter. I mean, this is the dumbest shit in general.
Yeah.
But this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to let it rip. They wanted to get that 3rd hiking certification. They get to the part of a mountain where basically they have to stop. They get to the slopes of Kolatsikal. This is a mountain named in the Mansa language, which is an indigenous group in Russia, that translates to Dead Mountain.
Yes.
Which is subtle. And basically they had a decision to make. As the night was falling, they were basically, okay, do we stay on the slope of the mountain? We've made a lot of progress. Or do we go back down and go into the woods and try to get some cover? Mm-hmm. This was the decision. The leader of the group, Igor Dyatlov. Mm-hmm. My Russian is very poor.
Dyatlov. Yeah.
Yeah. Yours is quite nice. That's
the only word I know in Russian. This is the only thing I know that's ever happened in Russian.
That's you go to a Russian restaurant, they bring you borscht or something. You're like, Dyatlov.
Dyatlov. And also Gorbachev made a Pizza Hut commercial. That's the only thing I know.
The group leader basically says, hey, we're going to stay on the side of the mountain. This was the last decision maybe he ever made. Their group was gone for 2 weeks. They didn't return home. The one guy that went back, he was like, yo, where are my friends at? 2 weeks go by. No one hears from them. They send a search party out, and what they find is disturbing. February 26th, after several days of searching, they find the group's tent. It's on the slope exactly where they left off, and there were very many things that were very strange about this. The tent had been badly damaged. It was ripped, cut open with a knife.
Yes.
Not from the outside, but from the inside. Ooh. There were footprints that they could follow all the way out to the woods. And the footprints are very, very strange. Apparently, they're in like a single file line. The footprints are not scattered. It doesn't look like they were running. Their gait seems like they were walking in single file line. Most of the footprints are not with boots. A lot of them are barefoot. Yeah. And the bodies are not able to be found. So they search for a little bit longer, and they discover the first 2 bodies under large cedar trees at the edge of the forest, approximately like 1.5 kilometers from the tent. This is the body of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krishniko. Both men were found shoeless, dressed only in their underwear, and again, only in their underwear, basically naked.
Yeah.
The cedar tree had broken branches up the tree, and one of the men maybe tried to climb the tree, maybe trying to see something, maybe trying to escape an unknown danger. And there was like a small fire at the bottom of the tree. Those are 2 bodies. They find 3 more bodies in between the tree and the tent. It seems like these people were trying to head back to the tent from the tree. One of the men was found with internal bleeding. He had head trauma, a severe skull injury. His skull was like broken open. Some people suggest, some of the experts that had actually looked into the autopsy said that he survived the injury for up to an hour, at which point he got dizzy, passed out, and then succumbed to the frost.
Yes.
They only found those bodies. Months went by until they found the remaining 4 bodies. They found them in a ravine. Basically, there was like a den that the surviving hikers kind of made for themselves. And this is the weirdest part. These guys' bodies is the most disturbing thing ever. So they're stuck here. One of the women is found, like she's kind of like near running water. Her eyes are missing. Her tongue is ripped out. Again, all of her ribs are basically broken. Some people, again, according to the autopsy, say that she sustained these injuries while she was alive. Other people dispute that. But they found blood in her stomach, suggesting that like she actually got the injuries while she was still alive. And the cause of her death was hemorrhaging. She was one of the few that didn't die of hypothermia. All the rest of them, basically in this ravine, had like severe gashes. They had, their faces ripped off, their lips were ripped off, their tongues were ripped out. And then the weirdest part of all is that they discovered radiation on the clothing of the last 4 hikers.
Yeah.
It was believed that they had maybe taken the clothing from the earlier victims, and that's why they were naked, and they took their clothing, but there was still trace amounts of radiation. And then they even did detection for the whole region, and they found radiation throughout that area. Mm-hmm. And, of course, speculation and theories abound.
Absolutely.
Do you have any theories as to what happened?
There's 3 main theories that I'm familiar with. I read a book about it called Dead Mountain, which is a wonderful book. And one is the government, one is the locals, and 3 is probably the most interesting one as far as legitimate theories, is that the mountain is shaped in such a way, this is kind of the crux of Dead Mountain, it's shaped in such a way where when the wind whips through the mountain range, it creates a frequency that instills fear in people. So frequencies, like you can turn a knob, and if you hit a certain decimal rate, it can cause all kinds of physical effects like trembling and nausea, and it can make you freak out, but it only happens in something like 30% of the population. It's really interesting. It's a real phenomenon. And the mountain is shaped in such a way where it does that. It's the exact shape that it needs to be to have that effect on people. So the theory being it affected one of them. He freaked out. It's pitch black, middle of a snowstorm. He rips the tent open. He runs into the snow. That's why they all have no clothes on, because now the tent is open. And they're chasing him because they're all really close friends. They're all young, too, for the most part, except I think the professor. Mm-hmm. And he runs into the snow. And, like, imagine if that was your best friend. Maybe you'd go try to get him. And then suddenly, it's in the middle of a blizzard. You turn around. You don't know where you are anymore. They're all completely lost, hopelessly lost. So then the girl falls in a ravine. She breaks her ribs, just falling on the boulders. And then the tongues and the eyes, that's like typical animal predation. So it could just be one of them had some sort of psychological thing and freaked out, and then they all naturally died. The second theory being that the Russians were testing nuclear warheads, things of that nature, which would explain the radiation. Mm-hmm. And then they saw something they shouldn't have, and then the government killed them, basically. And then the third one is that they offended the locals, because it's called Dead Mountain because the local people, that is where the spirits of their dead ancestors are, is that mountain. So that's like their heaven for the local tribes and their local religion. So it's like very disrespectful to be on the mountain. Like they don't do that. And I think, at least it said in the book, that the college kids, the Dyatlov group, were very disrespectful during their journey through the forest where the locals live, which is also a very sacred place. They were carving in trees like that. So they think that the locals just went up there and like killed them.
Oh, that's wild.
So that would explain the head. They bashed his head in. They all start freaking out, running different directions because they're being attacked. And that's why he tried to climb the tree. He's trying to get away from local people. That's probably the most likely thing, in my opinion, is that the locals probably killed them.
Wow. Yeah, I wonder if it's a mixture of things, genuinely.
Could be.
Like, I feel like it could be, like, multiple things that happen.
Definitely.
The one that you were talking about before, one of the dudes going crazy, like, the frequency thing I think is completely
Yeah.
reasonable. And one of the guys, there was actually a KGB member that suggested this. One of the guys, Semyon, one of the he's the oldest one. He was a World War II vet and survivor of Stalingrad.
Yeah.
Apparently he had severe PTSD.
Oh,
Prior to, the people that knew him were like, oh yeah, he was like fucked up. And like he would hike as a way of like, calming his, traumatic stress. And so some people are saying like he might have gone crazy in the middle of the night, attacked some people. And there's even people that have gone through all like the autopsy documents, and they suggest that his injuries were different than everyone else's injuries.
Oh,
That his seemed much more consistent with restraint. So like they were trying to restrain him.
Yeah.
And that he
That's
was going
interesting.
crazy. Again, I don't know how that would result in 9 of them dying.
Well, it's so cold. If you were out there, I mean, this is the Ural mountain range, I think.
Yeah.
I have just happen to know a lot about this particularly. But they, he didn't tell me we were going to talk about this, but I just happen to know a lot about, I think it is the Ural Mountains. And
It is.
if you're out in that temperature without any clothes, you would die really, really quickly.
Yeah.
You
I
would
think at
die
night it was
really
like
fast.
negative 25 or negative 30.
Yeah, you would die within like 30 minutes or something. So they're like running in the snow.
They pull him, they go,
Yeah.
they chase him, or he's fighting them in some capacity outside, and then they get lost.
Yes.
The other one is the Soviet military cover-up. Apparently they weren't far from a testing ground. Like there is a military base in the region.
Yeah.
With some metric of closeness that people think is significant. I don't know the exact distance, but I'm like, that also is interesting. Apparently there's also on the website, you can go to the actual Dyatlov website, and they show that one of the cameras that one of the main guys had was different in the photographs to the one that they found him with.
Oh, wow.
So there's more speculation that, he was taking pictures of something. They took them all out.
Yeah.
And then they swapped out his camera.
And it would be easy for them to do that and make it look like an accident, the government, because all they would have to do is take away their clothes and they would die because it's
Right.
cold.
Right.
So they could have, scared them away by beating the shit out of one of them, and then they all die in the cold.
Alien theory. What do you think of that?
I don't know if it holds water, but I think there was something in there, as much as I love to think that it could have been. But UFOs tend to be, in my opinion, at least benevolent. I don't know why they would kill all these random Russians. But
They
said they saw something in the sky.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Some of the people had mentioned the lights, and then this is one of the last photos of one of the different hikers. So people point to this and they're like, "Oh, this must have been a picture of the sky or something."
A craft.
To me, I think this is either a picture of a fire
Yeah,
with
sure.
like really low light from far away, or some people suggest that it's actually the last picture that the person developing the photo took, because this was the last picture on the roll. They took one dummy photo just to get the roll to finish and then
Okay.
popped it out.
That's totally possible.
And I was like, that probably
because it could be
actually
anything.
makes the
Yeah.
most sense.
But I think they had written in one of their journals they had been seeing something in the sky, which could be government testing rather than a UFO.
Right. I think the avalanche theory is actually quite interesting.
Yes.
You've heard about this also, I
Sure.
assume. And so they're suggesting that there was something, what's known, I guess, as like a technical avalanche. This is basically like a mini avalanche that happens, and that they had this giant chunk of snow fall on them in a very small section.
Yeah.
And that would have led to like extreme, trauma, ribs breaking, head trauma. And again, like the way that their wounds are described is that they don't have a lot of bruising and like lacerations outside of like the couple that had like specific cuts and things like that. And a lot of it was internal. So it would have like broken ribs, but not like a ton of like impact.
pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but they're saying that the amount of pressure it would take was like a car. Like you need to get hit with an SUV.
So it'd have to be a big avalanche.
So again, they're looking at it and they're like, well, it's potential that there was a small avalanche that happened directly onto their tent. The region isn't known for avalanches, but it's possible that it happened. And then they heard the avalanche coming. Some of them got crushed. Some of them ran out. And then as soon as they ran out, they were basically just, waiting to die.
For sure.
And then obviously I think the lips and the eyes thing is probably animals.
Yeah, probably animals.
Oh,
What?
I heard something about the radiation, by the way.
Yeah.
This was, I think, maybe the most significant thing that makes the most sense to me. I was like, oh, wow.
I'm popping a do.
Oh, you doing the do right now?
Popping a do.
Speaking of radiation, that is a significant amount. Can you...
I'm popping a fucking do.
It's like an X-ray for your stomach. It's nice. Oh, liquid X-ray? Thank you very much.
Caustic. Yum.
Apparently, the lamps that they were using,
Yes.
these specific type of like lights,
Oh.
are radioactive.
Well, we didn't understand that much about it back then. A lot of things were radioactive.
And so one of the things I was reading was like, yeah, it's very possible that the lamps that they were using were radioactive, and that is ultimately what caused the radioactive material to come up on their jackets.
Makes sense. Also, with the tent, there's a lot, because it completely changes the whole story if the tent is cut from the outside or the inside.
Everything I've read says the inside.
Yeah, but it could be. That was said. We don't have the tent anymore. And that was said in 1959. And we don't have the same forensic technology then that we do now. It could have very easily been cut from the outside. My understanding, I'm not a forensic, anthropologist, whatever you call it, pathologist. But yeah, it could have easily, because it's really hard to tell with that kind of canvas material what way it is cut. Especially after it's buried in the snow and things like that. So if it's cut from the outside, it would seem to indicate that it was an attack.
That's the other thing I can't figure out with the tent. I've read conflicting reports that in the tent, there was like all of their possessions were still in the tent. That's confirmed. Like all of their clothes, the warm clothes, sleeping stuff, everything.
Why were they running?
But one of the things that they mention is that there was like cups of coffee in the tent that like weren't really disturbed. And so people point to that to say like, oh, this was not an avalanche.
Yeah.
Like they point to it to say like, oh, they were running from something.
Because if it had buried the tent in any capacity, those things would have been disturbed.
Right, like but I can't get an exact confirmation on that.
Who knows? But
they really botched the autopsy. That's ultimately what all this comes down to.
There's a lot of conflicting reports about, I don't know. But that could be part of the cover-up. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Was there photos of the bodies?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Here. It's crazy. One of them, let me show you this one. This one is insane. I grabbed a couple of them, but...
Whoa.
Wild, right? The one on the bottom left's my favorite.
Oh, that's scary.
Cut my life into pieces.
Yeah, it looks like a Cannibal Corpse album cover.
Right?
That's so grunge.
Yeah, it's pretty metal. It's pretty metal. Shouts out to them, dude. Pour one out tonight for...
Shouts out to those dead hikers.
You know what's crazy? They asked the dude that survived. They were like, what do you think happened?
Yeah.
One guy, remember, turned back. And he said he thinks it's a military operation.
Okay.
That's what he said.
It's interesting. Well, there was certainly a ton of stuff like that going on in Russia. I'm surprised the news even leaked behind the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, right?
Because this is Soviet Russia, so...
Yeah. But that was a crazy one. I don't know if we'll ever know definitively, but unfortunately, I don't think that one's a Yeti.
Yeah, they had said that they had seen a Yeti, but that was like something that they talked about. They were kids and they were like probably joking.
Why do we assume that all Yetis are violent? Like it could have just been a regular civil Yeti that was just going home.
Could have been a domestic Yeti, domesticated, escaped from the Russian lab it was being molested in.
Yeah. All right, let's talk some actual real lost film.
Sure.
All right, this is like a proper lost film story. Noah's Ark. This one is wild. You knew about this one as well.
Yes, but not all the tasty little tidbits, and I can't wait for you to fill my dumbass in.
1928, the film Noah's Ark premiered, directed by this guy, Michael Curtiz. The film is like 2 hours, 15 minutes long, and no one really liked it. The audience and the critics at the time, again, this is 1928. They don't have anything. Like, they don't have Game Boys. They don't have phones. They got shit to do, and people are still talking shit about this trash-ass movie.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Garbalo.
And literally, they're like, yeah, the long, drawn-out scenes and awkward dialogue were challenging to sit through. These are people that would do nothing all day. They would sit in chairs.
Movies were invented 10 years ago.
And they're still like, what the fuck is this trash?
What is this garbage?
And yeah, basically they kind of like threw out the movie. It was embarrassing, and they cut out a bunch of stuff. This is where it gets pretty interesting. So they did almost like a re-release, and the re-release is kind of what saved the scenes that we do have. So what's interesting for the time is that they don't have any special effects. So the whole film, again, is just the story of Noah's Ark. A great flood comes and kills all the evildoers and the wicked men of the world, and Noah and his family saved. But they don't have any they don't have any special effects, so everything has to be practical. So as a result, when they do the flood scene, they literally drop 600,000 gallons of water onto a crew of like a couple thousand extras standing like in a river. And they literally pipe up a bunch of water from like a water tower and dump it on them. And a bunch of the actors are like concerned. They're like, oh, is everything going to be okay? And literally the director just goes, you're going to have to just be prepared for anything. And quote, you have to take your chances. The footage is unbelievable. Dude.
Wow.
These are just regular people, young men and women just trying to make it in Hollywood.
Whoa. Yeah. That is a lot of water.
Getting thrashed. They don't make movies like this anymore. No. Back in the day, they were really about it.
Oh, so it was a silent film.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, you can't hear the people screaming in pain.
Awkward dialogue. Silent.
The critics, dude. Like, we can't hear anything. It's like, yeah, we haven't invented that yet, motherfucker. So, unfortunately, 3 actors drowned.
Ugh.
3 of them died. One of them lost a leg, which I don't know how you lose a leg in a flood. I mean, like,
got on a rock, maybe.
Yeah, like, how fast is the water gone?
Legs were falling off left and right back then.
Literally in that order. And yeah, they killed 3 of these people, these poor extras. Thousands more were injured. They had like a bunch of 35 ambulances like attended people all day. And they did a re-release of the movie. They cut out a bunch of the scenes, and of the scenes that they cut out the people that had died.
Sure.
Which is rude, I think.
Yeah, you want to honor their memory.
Right? Like, there's a guy that died in like a James Bond movie. Remember that?
Jumping off something?
Exactly. He did that big parachute jump and died. And I'm like, you got to leave him in the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you have to.
That's his memory. But no, they cut it out. All these people that died, they pulled them out of the movie, and they never showed that footage ever again. That footage is wiped off the internet.
Oh my God.
So,
scrubbed.
Literally, you can't even see it. It's kind of sad for those people. You know what's wild? Here's a little fun fact. There's a man that was on that set by the name of Marion Robert Morrison. He was 19 years old, one of the extras getting dumped with water. And he would grow up to be
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. Isn't that crazy? He ended up becoming president of the United States as a half-white guy. Isn't that amazing?
His name was Rachel Dolezal.
No, that guy became John Wayne.
Really?
John Wayne was getting dumped on with water. 600,000 gallons and didn't die.
How old was he, 19?
He was 19 years old at the time.
Good for him.
Crazy, right?
That's great.
That's just what happened back in the day. Movies were just getting made. That shit would suck, and then they would kill some people and then delete it. Isn't that insane?
They'd cover people in asbestos.
Yeah.
Snow was asbestos. But
now you can see the edited version. Again, this is like the hour-and-a-half version. They cut out an hour, and it's on YouTube right now.
The full movie?
The edited re-release.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check it out. That might be a fun thing to do.
That would be fun tonight.
Maybe do shrooms and then watch some people die in the flood. It is realistic. I mean, that's what the flood was about.
Yeah.
And maybe those people were wicked. Maybe this was God getting his the final 3.
One last time.
Yeah, right?
Just a couple more sinners to add to the fucking chain gang up in heaven.
Exactly. Now, my favorite lost film that we're going to talk about today. This is my favorite one. The Day the Clown Cried.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this?
This is Jerry Lewis. Is it Jerry Lewis?
Casey Rock, you're too fucking good.
It's Jerry Lewis, and he is
too good.
A clown in a concentration camp.
That is exactly right.
Yes.
This is one of the most wild things I've ever read. I'd never heard of this before. 1962, there's a script written by this woman, Joan O'Brien, and this guy, Charles Denton. It's called The Day the Clown Cried. It's a dramatic piece focused on the redemption of a selfish man. All right, this is what the story is. There's a down-and-out German circus clown named Carl Schmidt. He's arrested by the Nazis for drunkenly mocking Adolf Hitler. After being sent to the concentration camp, he realizes that the Jewish children imprisoned in there respond positively to his clowning around. In an attempt to redeem himself, he agrees to entertain the children, ultimately leading them to the gas chambers in what he believes to be an act of mercy, bringing them a final moment of happiness before they die.
Ooh.
This is like a tragic story about a man like in a moral quandary trying to do the best he can.
Yes.
It's a really interesting script, especially for the 60s. I mean, this is like Hitler's been dead for 12 hours at this point.
It's heavy stuff.
And then they get Jerry Lewis involved. And this is where things take a turn for the greatest story ever, dude. Jerry Lewis comes in, all right, and makes significant changes. He infuses the script with his, quote, trademark humor. These changes, remember what this film is about. Don't lose that, okay? These changes include renaming the protagonist from the serious Carl Schmidt to Helmut Dork.
Parlo Pibbins. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to smoke one cigarette, I promise.
Please, that's our quote, actually. You have to do at least one.
I'm smoking one cig, and it's a Newport, and that's fine.
Yeah, why would that be? You know what I mean? There's nothing weird about. I
smoke Newports, and that's okay, and I'm an everyday guy. I'm a family man.
Yeah, that's all it is. He adds a bunch of jokes into the script that seem very out of place. Again, this is almost like you've seen Life is Beautiful. The film about a guy in concentration with his kid, and he's like trying to cheer him up the whole time. It's like so sad and so compelling, and just seeing someone try to give a child one last moment of laughter before they die. Yeah. And then Jerry Lewis goes, you know what? That's great. I'm gonna do a little gag in the movie where I actually pee ice because of how cold it is in Auschwitz. Whoa. That's one of the gags in the movie, is that he pees and it becomes like an icicle. The movie is filled with this kind of stuff, apparently. Dude, you need to see the pictures that they released. Again, this movie has never been released. There's more to that. We're going to talk about it. It's never been released, but these are some of the stills that they have. Oh, boy. This is the circus clown with his nose on the barbed wire fence of Auschwitz being a real goof. Oh, boy. This is him. Inside the concentration camp. Oh my God. 1970, is it 72 or 62? So it was written in the 60s and it actually got into development much later. That's too modern. They shouldn't have. 72 is a big difference from 62. That's crazy. We got to know better, right? So again, it's written in that time, and then when he gets into it, I think it actually comes out in 73. But it never even comes out. Let me explain what happens. It's the most insane thing ever. This would be like the equivalent of like Will Ferrell making like a 9/11 movie. Yeah. It just happened. It's like he does Ricky Bobby, but he's a hijacker. You know what I mean? Like, they were closer to the Holocaust than we are to 9/11 in 1962. And they were like, we're gonna make a funny slapstick comedy about, but like trying to be serious at the same time. It's insane. The second they started making the movie, there's all these financial issues. They couldn't secure the actual funding that they needed. And then even crazier, they never even got the rights to the script from the two people that originally wrote it. This now went into a legal battle that prevented them from ever releasing the film. So they put in all this money to make a movie without even having the rights to the movie. Yeah, that's baffling. So despite these challenges, Jerry Lewis pushed forward, and by 1973, he claimed that the film was nearly complete and it had even been invited to the Cannes Film Festival. However, because of the legal disputes, particularly with the original writer, Joan O'Brien, the film was blocked. There were a few people that actually saw it, though. So in 1979, Harry Shearer, a famous film critic, watched it, and he described it as, quote, a perfect object of failure. Didn't mince words. A time where comedy and tragedy were so misaligned that it created a deeply unsettling experience. And then even Jerry Lewis later described the film as oopsie. No, he described it as bad, and expressed deep embarrassment over the film. He refused to discuss it ever since it happened and the whole thing went down. Anytime someone would bring it up, he'd be like, well, no, it was a good movie. We just couldn't do it. He got like super butthurt about it. Apparently he donated like the raws. They say that like a final version was never actually cut. Like they just had like, you know, sort of like director's cuts and shits. Yeah. And a version of what they had was donated to the Library of Congress. Oh, wow. So they have a version, and they confirmed in 2021 that they actually possess the original 35mm negatives. What if we filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information request? Has anyone ever done that? We might need to. We should fire a FOIA through a cannon to space. We should send it up to the Hubble telescope, and they'll beam down a request. 6 simple letters. Show picture, please. 3. All right. They're mostly words. What's crazy is that they said that they were not ever going to release. They were not ever going to release it. So 2015, Jerry Lewis donates a copy to the Library of Congress with the stipulation to not show it until 2024.
Uh-oh.
What year is it, Casey?
It's 2024.
You're damn right it is. So it's kind of on ice. People are not sure if it's going to happen. As of like a couple weeks ago, people are still eagerly awaiting to see the greatest film that never was, The Day the Clown Cried. And but they say that there's still no like final cut of it. So I think a version actually got uploaded with like German dubbing. Someone got a version where it's all in German. And that got put up on YouTube, like a 30-minute cut, kind of like pieced together with title cards and stuff, but then that got removed.
Yeah.
So if you search hard enough tonight, you can probably find like 25, 30 minutes of it. But the full thing, no one really knows that there even is an edit of it. But it's possible that the Library of Congress will put out the 35mm negative that they have.
Wow. La fin de absolute démon. The film at the end of the world.
That is, I think, the film that will cause the end of the world. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That is, I didn't know about the 2024 thing.
Yeah. So apparently it's going to be coming out soon. Inshallah.
And it's going to be in IMAX. And they're going to have a special popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
So cool.
We need to do a Barbie Oppenheimer Day the Clown Cried type media push.
Triple feature.
I think that's what the people need.
10 hours at AMC.
Yeah. One ticket gets you all of them. You can just watch it all the way through.
$100.
I mean, it is the perfect hybrid of Barbie and Oppenheimer. If you put them together for real, you get The Day the Clown Cried.
For sure.
You get a Jerry Lewis film from the
Margot
70s.
Robbie as a SS concentration camp guard. And then Josh Peck as Barbie, I guess, would be the crossover. And then a clown.
This is what we need, dude. We need more comedians to do like funny slapstick versions of the worst things that ever happened. I think that is the future.
There's no slapstick anymore. It's a dead genre.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see Jonah Hill in Columbine 2. Electric Boogaloo. That's what I want, dude. We need Harold and Kumar do school shooting. That would be a movie right there.
Jonah Hill as Eric Harris and James Franco as Dylan Klebold. Franco's back. He's uncanceled. We're bringing him back.
No, dude, Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum. 25 Jump Street. They go back for one more ride.
To Columbine. And they have to stop it.
I think they do it. I think
they do it themselves.
I think they go back and
they're high-fiving. Brutal.
They go back to school as 30-year-olds. They're like, all right, we're gonna get these drug dealers, and they get bullied. They're like, we're gonna show them.
These guys fucking suck.
At 30 years old,
all these jocks.
They find out that the school shooters are actually cops the whole time. Damn it.
Electric Feel is playing. They're just shooting up the fucking brutal. So
that's what we need. That's basically what they did with this Jerry Lewis movie. As crazy as this little hypothetical we just made is, it actually happened.
Yeah, and it was really fresh. I can't believe that. That's so wild.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Well,
Casey, I got another insane film for you.
Throw another one at me.
It's called Snuff.
Okay.
From 1976. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
This is a movie that's very interesting.
Yes.
It's sort of lost-ish. I'll explain. 1970s, this guy, Michael Finley, he's a filmmaker. He kind of makes like B movies, okay? Not literally the Seinfeld flick, but he just makes like exploitation films is what they would call it. And it's just like a low budget, like shocking movie. He made this movie called Slaughter. It's filmed in Argentina with the help of his wife. And it's basically just like a slasher movie with violence and sex. And it just like caters to like, it's, you know, what they call a B movie audience. And it doesn't really do anything. It comes out, no one sees it, it's quickly forgotten. And then years later, 1976, there's this guy, Alan Shackleton. He's a film distributor that's always trying to look for like a new way to market stuff to like turn a buck. He finds this movie. No one saw it. It was just like sitting on a dusty shelf. He puts it in and he's like, oh, this is interesting. And at the time, snuff films were starting to become like recognized in pop culture, like the urban legend of a snuff film. Mm-hmm. A snuff film, basically for anyone who doesn't know, is a movie where someone dies.
Yeah.
And so like there were rumors that like the Mansons had snuff films, that they would go on the desert and murder people and film it, and then they would like, you know, distribute them and give them to people and hide them in places. And it became like a huge like urban legend at the time.
Yeah.
As we know now, like these types of movies do exist, but at the time it was disputed if they ever existed or not. So this guy, Alan Shackleton, knowing the cultural movement that was happening, decides to ride the wave. What does he do? He takes this movie Slaughter and changes the title to Snuff. And basically, he does like a paranormal activity, like Blair Witch Project type thing with this movie. And so the movie ends in the actual movie Slaughter, that the one that they originally made, is like a woman gets stabbed and like dismembered on the bed and like she gets killed. And so what they do in the movie is wild. And I'll play a little clip of it here so people can see. But basically what they do is after this woman gets stabbed, they say cut, and then they pull out and they like break the fourth wall. And they show the whole camera crew and they show the woman, the actress, like getting up and she's like all bloody and she's like, oh my God, that was wild. Like, great job, everybody. And everyone high fives. And then two of the camera people, a guy and a girl, are so turned on by seeing the woman get stabbed and murdered that they start like making out. And then the guy, again, and it's all filmed like POV, like, oh, the camera crew just happened to like grab a camera like last second.
Yeah.
And they're filming them like play fighting, like kind of wrestling sexually on the bed. And then he grabs the knife, the prop knife that they were using in the scene, and then starts to stab the woman for real.
Whoa.
And then murders her and like cuts off her finger and then just like dismembers her on like this POV thing after this movie ends. So all of a sudden they release that movie and everyone's like, wait a second, this is a real snuff film? And it goes in the theaters and like becomes a frenzy. They use this as a marketing campaign. This is the most hilarious marketing campaign I've ever heard. See Snuff, a real snuff film. The film that could only be made in South America, where life is cheap. That's the slogan that they use. It creates a media frenzy. Newspapers and television people are talking about it. They're debating the morality of the film. They're trying to figure out if it's a real murder or not. Everyone's looking at it. They're like, this is a real murder. Turns out it wasn't a real murder.
Probably.
It wasn't. It was just, if you watch it now, you'll be like, oh, this is obviously not a real murder.
Yeah.
Here, we can watch like a little clip of it. So this is the original one that they did, right? Is where like they're getting stabbed, da 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 da. And then this is where the new movie comes in. Right at that edit. So they get so like turned on by like the fake killing that happened on set that all of a sudden she's like, wait, are you guys filming right now? Don't film. And then he grabs the knife and he's like, oh, should I do it? Should I do it?
Whoa.
And people were watching this in the 70s being like, wait, is this a real snuff film? Like, is this a, like, oh my goodness. They had never seen this before. They were like, wait. I mean, it's crazy. He's going bananas on it. I mean, it's just crazy.
He's got a blood frenzy.
Yeah.
He got a taste.
I mean, it's just crazy. But there's also like a ton of continuity errors. So like if you watch it, like her finger's gone, then her finger's back. Like there's like all these problems. Like it's very obvious that none of this happened. But it made a frenzy. It was like basically the way like Blair Witch Project like took over the world. This was like the original one. And everyone saw it. There was like huge crowds. People were like protesting. It was like a whole thing. And they eventually had to like investigate it. And then they found out it was actually just a publicity stunt.
Charlie Sheen, American actor, philanthropist, AIDS patient.
In that order.
He watched a Japanese gore movie called American Guinea Pig. Or it was this series of movies called Guinea Pig. And there was a bunch of them. And they were gore movies. They were like fake movies, fake snuff films. And it was all about like this twisted team of doctors, and they would kidnap girls and cut them apart and shit while they were alive. And Charlie Sheen saw it, and he was so convinced it was real, he called like the FBI or something. And the FBI had to investigate it to make sure that Japanese girls weren't being dismembered.
I feel like I've heard about this.
Yeah, it was in like 1991, which is funny because I just picture during that period Charlie Sheen was probably initially doing cocaine, really getting into cocaine. So I just imagine him totally zooted up at like 5 a.m. We gotta stop this thing. They're killing girls.
We gotta save these women.
Yeah. What a fool.
I mean, that's hilarious.
And the effects are laughable, like watching it. So just picture he's just blackout drunk, and it just doesn't look real. So he's a fucking moron.
Oh, it doesn't look good at all.
Some of it does. It depends which one he was watching. I don't remember.
I mean, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to Charlie Sheen. He really has a conscience. You know what I mean? He was like, we need to get the government involved in this movie right now.
He's a hero.
He really is, dude. Say what you will about Charlie Sheen. I mean, he tried to save those women.
He has been a champion of human rights for as long as I can remember, and he has tiger's blood, and he's fucking awesome.
Hey, he's always been good to me.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Anytime people talk shit about Charlie Sheen, I say, hey, always been nice to me.
And he turned his life around, and that's one of the hardest things to do.
That's a good point. What is he doing now? Is he good?
He seems fine. I think he's on TV. He has a show on FX again, I think.
Oh, nice. So he's back.
Yeah, it's called like Mr. Peeper and the Pee-Pee Posse or something. I think it's called like Mr. Peeper's Pee-Pee Posse.
I do. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah, they did commercials for that. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I need to tell you about one of the new sponsors of our show that I'm really excited about. It's my good friends over at Ketone IQ. All right. If you're anything like me, you're addicted to sugar. You'll love it. It's nonstop. You think about it all day. You get cravings like crazy, and you just want to stuff your face with bad food. This is a problem. All right. Because if you're like me, you like to work out, you like to be healthy, you like to have energy. And the problem is when you're eating sugar all day, it actually makes you more lethargic. It takes your energy away. So what do? You pick up some of these ketone IQs, all right? A ketone IQ, this is basically like a little energy shot, but it doesn't have caffeine. It doesn't have any added sugar. It's not genetically modified. It is all the natural goodness that you need in one shot, all right? This is used by endurance athletes all over the world. The ketone actually just partnered up with one of the greatest cycling teams in the entire universe. They won a bunch of the last, world tours. So I'm telling you, it's used by the best. Basically, it's going to give you natural energy. So whenever you get a little sugar craving, you get that little itch for a little treat, you pop one of these bad boys, that craving goes off, and you will be able to hold over until you get your steak dinner. All right? I'm telling you, if you are looking to be a high-performance athlete, if you're doing, keto, or even if you're just a guy like me that likes to work out and try to be in your best shape, this is what you need, all right? This is Ketone IQ. And if you're interested, Ketone is willing to do a little deal for the listeners of this program. Yes. You can save 30% off your first subscription order and receive a free 6-pack of Ketone IQ when you go to ketone.com. That is ketone, ketone.com/camp. Yes, CAMP. You're going to get 30% off your first subscription, and you're going to get a free 6-pack of Ketone to try when you go to ketone.com. That is ketone, ketone.com. Let me just tell you right now, this stuff doesn't taste great, all right? But that's how you know it's good. That's how you know it's working, okay? I don't trust this stuff that tastes too good. It's like, oh, it tastes like candy. Yeah, it's probably not good for you, okay? Ketone, it's all natural ingredients. It's absolutely amazing. No caffeine, no sugar, none of that crazy stuff. It just keeps you going through the day. All natural energy. Let's get back to the show.
I have a lost film story. This is the one I was telling you about.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine on the program. This guy, Ethan.
Ooh.
He's an entrepreneur, makes a bunch of apps. Interesting dude.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also like an influencer guy. So he does this thing where he goes, I don't think demons are real. I'm going to try to get possessed by a demon. He goes to like an abandoned, like insane asylum. He goes to a graveyard, does a bunch of seances, tries to get possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
It's not working. He puts it on TikTok. He's like, guys, this whole shit is fake. Demons aren't real. Spirit world isn't real. I can't get possessed. A bunch of witches get pissed at him.
Sure.
And these witches on Witch Talk, get together and they're like, hey, we have powers.
We're going to curse this guy.
And we're going to hex you forever. And he goes, all right, hex me. And they go, well, in order to hex you, we actually need some paperwork and we're going to need some like hair and nail clippings from you. And he was like, all right, what do you need? And they sent him a whole list. We need like hair, we need this, we need this. And he goes, all right, bet, I'll do it. Where do you want me to send it? And sends it to 2 or 3 of the witches.
Whoa.
And basically then he just waits.
They need a little bit of your poop, a little picture of you smiling, but it has to be a genuine smile. It can't be like a family picture. It has to be like a real candid smile.
Yeah. So someone got you off guard with like they pulled their penis out last second.
And a thumb-sized piece of poop.
It's like a Quest Diagnostics. Like that's kind of what they need. We're doing a hormone panel. And they basically ask for it. He sends it to him. And then they check it out, and he just waits 2 weeks. He doesn't say anything.
Mm.
And then there's an article that comes out and it says, Miami man dies, found dead in apartment at 24 years old. And it leaks, and it gets sent to all the witches. And the witches are like, yo, we got him. We killed him. We got him. And then he comes back out like 3 days later, and he goes, guys, I made the article. I made a fake website with a fake article. You didn't kill me. The hex isn't real. As he's describing this to me, he's sitting right where you were sitting not too long ago. The lights in the studio start to flicker. Never before and never since have the lights in the studio flickered. It's never happened. Have you seen one light flicker?
Not today, I can comfortably say.
The light behind the light behind him starts flickering, just going on and off. And we have it on camera. And I was like, this is the most insane shit I've ever seen. I cannot wait to show people because the lights are flickering as he's telling me about the witches. And I was like, were you afraid that the witches were going to get you? And he was like, nah, I didn't really believe in that. Flicker, 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 going on and off. And I was like, dude, I turn the light off, turn it back on, and it's fine for like another 5 minutes. We start to talk, starts flickering again. Wow. I turned it off. I didn't do anything different with it. I turned it back on the next day to do a different episode. The light worked fine. I had it on camera, and I say that in past tense because we went to go look at the footage. The footage is corrupted. So we had the audio, but the camera file for his camera is gone.
That's happened to me. I used to do a podcast. I won't say, well, I don't want people digging it up. But same thing. We were talking about something paranormal, and then it was just that part. Right when we started talking about it, video cut. Yeah, same thing.
Weird.
It's weird.
So I recovered the footage.
No.
I got in touch with someone that was able to fix it, and I actually got the footage. Do you want to see it?
I am goosebumped right now.
Okay.
I'm bone chilled. I swear to God, if it's Rick Roll, I'm going to be fucking livid.
It's gay pornography. Got him. No, this is, I'll show you the whole thing.
Is a massive audience of people who believe that they're witches. They have magic powers and they can cast spells. I put out a video saying you guys are all frauds, and I challenge all of you guys to hex me. Hex me. And then someone made a video like, well, I'm a witch and I could have hexed you.
The whole thing
because I have a million
was
followers,
corrupt.
I'm not gonna see her video.
This whole video file.
Hex me. All the other witches in Witch Talk upload videos of them cutting out like my photos from Instagram and laying them on fire, putting hexes on me. So all the hexes happen and they're like, in 3 weeks, Ethan's gonna get really ill or something like that. Yeah, 3 weeks go by and I am not hexed, nothing's happening to me. So I make a website and I ran an article. Miami influencer dies in an apartment suddenly. And these witches are going, we got him, he's dead, we got him. And people are like, wow, Ethan died, like Ethan's dead. And rest in peace, Ethan. Some people are giving condolences to my family. Oh man, what's going on over here? The witches. I can,
Yo,
this is because of what I'm about to tell you next, okay?
Bro, what the is going on?
You're freaking out.
Come on, bro. Why is it flickering, dude? Are you with me? Yo, what the hell, bro?
There you go. Oh, there he goes again.
Come on, bro.
This can't be happening.
Sorry.
You got me stuck right now. All right, I got no smoke for witches, by the way.
Yeah,
Let me just say
yeah,
that. Ethan Kaiser,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care. Don't come for me.
So when I tell you
Yo,
when I
what
tell
the
you the second part, this will make sense. Here's what happened, okay?
How scary.
Weird, right?
It can't. Oh my
I swear to God, that is a completely genuine thing that happened. Hand on the Bible, hand on my mother. That is a real thing. It was not staged. It was not scripted. In the episode, I lean over. My buddy Brandon was producing that episode. A Haitian kid,
Yeah.
fully believes in voodoo. And I was like, bro, you seeing this shit? And he just goes, man, I ain't gonna lie, my heart's beating real fast right now. Like, he was freaked out, bro. So that episode's gonna drop this week, but it's one of the weirdest things that's maybe ever happened in the history of this show.
Yeah, that is shocking. I had an episode of the Grimace Half Hour Power Hour get file corrupted, and it was just it was us talking about Grimace beating the shit out of a lady in a tamale cart. So it's totally different.
But what is Grimace, though, right? Is he not demonic in some capacity, you think?
Well, I think every culture has a Grimace, yes.
Yeah, we've seen him in folklore from the Mayans to
millennia.
the Irish.
Yeah, it's the sky being, it's the mother god.
Anunnaki.
It's the Anunnaki, it's the Romulus and Remus feeding from the teat, yes. We've seen this throughout history, repeated, this image, this iconization, this sort of diatribe of, and we've seen it time and time again, where sort of this colloquialism of the giver and the taker. Yes, the duality of man, and he's a tulpa, he's a thought form, and something that's spoken into existence through generation. He was created purely from the thoughts of the masses, not created of a divine intervention, but created from so much thought that we kissed him into this reality, basically. Kissed him. So he bled through.
This is my point, is that when we discuss these types of things,
Sure.
and we're willing to dive in and be brave, that we put our spiritual lives on the line.
In a very literal sense, yes. And it could all end tomorrow.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
Yeah. I haven't seen one, but I heard one.
Where?
It was like, what are you doing in there? Is it, what are you doing in there? Get out of there.
And where were you?
So scared.
Wait, where were you?
In my room.
And what were you doing in there?
I was just reading a book. I was just reading a book. And, what are you doing? Get out of there. Stop it. Get up. And I said, all right, I'm up. Get out of there now. And it made me get up. Now, I heard a baby crying one time outside my door in Atlanta. We had a graveyard right outside our back fence in Atlanta, a historical graveyard. You could only read one grave, and it was the grave of a baby. It was like 1921 to 1922. And I was making oh, man, sorry. My colloquialisms are off. I was making Frank's Red Hot Chicken in the crock pot to make a delicious quesadilla, as I'm wont to do. And I heard something, and I'm sniffing the Franks. What's that noise? I'm sniffing again. What? I think I hear a little noise. And the dog starts freaking out, barking at the ceiling, barking at the floors, barking at the walls. I was home alone. And it sounded like a cat crying. And then it kept going. It kept getting louder and louder and louder. It was like 5 feet away from me. I started getting scared. I get this feeling of fear, intense fear, frequencies. Yes, Dyatlov callback. And I'm getting so scared. And I realized it wasn't a cat crying. It was a baby crying, like right under the door, like mouth to the door, coming. Like the baby was like right there, like screaming, crying, like really, really loud. And the dog, I've never seen a dog act like that. It was barking. It was like it didn't know where to look. Like it was like surrounded by like freaking out. And then the next week, that happened Saturday night, 1:55 in the morning. Next week, Saturday night, monthly routine, weekly, 4 times a month. You do the math, 44 times a year. I'm making Frank's Red Hot Chicken in I'm making it, the kitchen. I'm making it in the kitchen, the chicken, the Frank's for the quesadillas. Little baby noise start going. Wee, wee, wee. Wee, wee, wee. Big spook. Biggest spook of my summer.
It's a true
story.
I believe that.
It's true. I've never been so scared. And the same thing, the dog started freaking out. And it was the type of dog that like didn't care about cats. Like it was like the runt of the litter. It never freaked out about anything. And it was losing its mind at what was happening. It was like totally petrified.
How did the baby die?
I don't know. I guess I could have looked up the name of the baby, but it was like 1921, so I doubt there was any, I don't know. But it was like a 1-year-old, like a baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the spookiest thing that's ever happened?
Yeah, I think so. It was really, really scary. It just felt like something was not right, what was happening. Like it wasn't the neighbor's baby crying. It was way too loud. It was right under the door. And it was like clear as day, like a baby screaming, crying. Like it started like filling the house. I was like, oh no, this can't be happening.
I mean, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. And it happened to the minute, the same exact time 1 week later.
And it never happened again?
Never happened again, yeah.
And do you feel like it has to do with the
baby?
The Franks?
It could have been the Franks. It's hard to tell. I don't want to blame Franks for sort of being poltergeisted, but
we have to wonder if it's a Mexican child. And then you decided to make quesadillas with Franks. And I wonder if that was
if it was Tapatio, the baby probably would have loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would have waltzed right in, hello, my baby, hello, my darling, WB Frog style, and asked for a chalupa, but no.
Instead of just bothering you.
Yeah, it was just screaming and making Frankie, the dog, scared. The dog was also named Frankie.
What
kind of weird.
Fuck?
2 Franks that just hate Franks, I guess.
Frank's Red Rocket? Frank's hottest red rocket sauce?
So terrifying to think about.
Did you consider opening the door?
No. Well, the first time, yeah. But it got louder and louder and louder, the noise, and I was like, I'm not fucking opening that door. No way. No way. But people would hear there was a door that was drywalled over at the end of this hallway. It's a 3-bedroom apartment, this old house in Atlanta that we were renting. And there was a door at the end of the hallway that was completely drywalled over, so you couldn't open it. There's just a wall. There's not even a door there. But you could see it from the outside. And people would hear that door open and close all the time. Like you would hear footsteps. good morning. And then you would hear the door slam. But that's impossible because there's no door to slam.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird. There would be weird stuff there.
And what do you make of it? Like, are you like a ghost believer?
I don't know. People would have really weird stuff happen in that house. Yeah, I don't know. It has to be something with matter, right? And there's a reason, like, typically why we don't have so many ghosts now. I don't know. I'm not huge. I'm more into ufology, the study of UFOs. But, it tends to be, and this is something I wrote down when we were waiting for the podcast, all these phenomena are linked. And John Keel, who wrote the Moth Man Prophecies, I thought I had the shirt on, but he talks about the idea of all these phenomena are the same thing. It's the phenomenon. Poltergeists, UFOs, demons. It's all the same thing because areas with high Bigfoot sightings have a lot of poltergeist activity. A lot of people who see UFOs experience a lot of poltergeist, things moving around their house. It seems to be all interconnected. Bigfoot are seen in areas with tons of UFO activity. So it's something when you go deeper down that rabbit hole, it's almost like a tulpa, like the Grimace. It's like when you give these things your time of day, they happen to you more. When you're like really obsessed with them, when you open that eye or whatever, you can be, what is a demon but a thought, like a poison, like an inception, You planted a seed, and if you let it, it can like begin to grow, something like that. But
Wow.
Kind of convoluted way of saying it, but it does seem to be that it's all the same thing, whatever that might be.
And people that don't believe it don't really see anything.
Sure. Yeah, except, some people might be more sensitive to it for whatever reason. But it just happened in that house. I've never had anything else ever happen like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never had anything like that other than the light flickering, which was very bizarre.
Yeah.
There's another time we're actually doing an episode of the Flagrant podcast. It was a Patreon episode. And my friend Alexx Media made a comment about when he did a past life regression. He went and saw a woman. Are you familiar with past life regressions?
A little.
This is basically like it's like a guided meditation where basically you're completely sober, laying in a room, and a woman will guide you through a like thought exercise to then, and like put you into a meditative state to then see your past lives. And he described the experience very, very peculiarly. And I've heard other people describe it since in the same way, where basically it is a vivid visual where you're seeing yourself in someone else's body in a different time.
Oh, wow.
So this is a black dude living in New York today, had this vision, and it was clear as day. It wasn't like a dream. It wasn't hazy. He was like, I was seeing through my eyes as a white dude in like maybe 1700s fishing.
Whoa.
And I was just out just casting, trying to get fish like on like the bank of a river. And he was like, it was clear as day. I knew exactly what happened. And then he like flashes to another moment where he's shot with a gun. Again, as the same guy, just like a white dude living in England. He could feel his beard, the hair on his face felt different. Like his hair on his head felt different. He could feel it with his fingers. And he gets shot and then dies and then goes to heaven. And basically heaven is just like him blasting off in outer space as like a ball of energy. He's not a human. He's not an angel. He's just an energy like orb. And he goes and sees his grandmother. And his grandmother's also an orb of energy, but he knows that it's his grandmother and he's able to talk to her.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's not talking with his mouth. He's just sort of like telepathically communicating information through his consciousness to his grandmother's spirit as an orb. And she says to him like, everything's going to be okay. You're fine. And he's like immediately washed with a feeling of like peace and comfort. And he's no longer afraid of death. And he's describing the story to us on the program as we're sitting there. And as he says it and wraps up the story, the door pops open.
Whoa.
No one walks in. No one's around. We look at the security camera because we have a camera that's pointed at the door, and the door was shut. And then it popped open.
And a little orb came through, and it smelled like licorice.
It did.
And butterscotch.
And then it went into my mouth.
And it went into your mouth. That's
and I said,
it's happening.
Yeah. And then I had dirt on him forever. I was like, dude, your grandma just fucking went in my throat. That was wild.
Really, dude? You're not going to get me Chipotle? Your grandma fucking haunted my podcast. The audacity.
I'm so pissed, dude. We were literally having a fun Tuesday, and now there's a succubus in my tent.
My mom was crying one time, and she lives in this old farmhouse that my great-grandfather built. And there's been little weird stuff there with her living there. She lives there alone, and then there's not a neighbor for miles, and it's in the middle of rural Illinois, surrounded by cornfields. And she was crying one night, and the door opened, whoosh, boom, and slammed shut. Like, and she thought that it was her grandmother, like, telling her, like, stop fussing. You're okay, stop fussing.
That is a funny way for a grandma to say that, just slamming the door.
Yeah. I had a night terror there about a month ago. I was visiting my mom, and I had a night terror that there was, all I remember is there was a face flying around the room, like a face, like a black eyes, like flying around the room, and I woke up screaming. And I don't know if I've ever woke up screaming before. I didn't remember screaming. It was like part of the night terror. I was screaming in the dream, and it turns out I was screaming in my sleep, and I woke up the whole house.
No.
Yeah, it was pretty freaky. And then I was back there since then, and I sleep with the lights on now because I don't want that to happen.
Just fully, just
Yeah,
bright.
it was like really, really scary. I didn't know why I was awake, like once I finally woke up, but I had screamed myself awake, and everyone was in my room, which also scared me. They were like, oh my God, you were like terrified, like crying in my sleep, basically.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, something spooky going on.
Dude, I never really had a night terror, but one time I was sleepwalking. And
Yeah.
I don't remember the dream at all, but I remember waking up sleepwalking.
Oh.
So basically, here's what I was told from like my mom and my sister's perspective. They're sitting in the kitchen. I walk into the kitchen, and my eyes are kind of like half open, half shut, just like I walk in. I get a plate, and I put a bunch of ice on the plate. I get ice from the ice maker, and I put it on the plate. And then I get water, and I like pour water onto the ice plate through like the fridge water dispenser.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister just goes, Mark, what are you doing? And I just look at her like angry, like pissed. I was like, I'm worshiping the bonfires.
Whoa.
And then my sister goes, what? And I was like, huh? And then I slowly started to wake up, and I wake up holding a plate full of water and ice. And I look at them, and I'm like kind of embarrassed. I don't even remember what happened. And I was just like, what the fuck, guys? I'm going to bed. And
It's
I
a
go
ritual.
to bed. I literally just go to bed. And then my mom, ever since then, is like, do you remember what you said when you were sleepwalking? And I'm like, yeah, I remember. She goes, I've been looking into that. She's like, are you familiar with the vanities of the bonfires? And I was like, what is this? She's like, you're familiar with Bohemian Grove.
Oh my God.
And I
You've
was
been
like-
inducted.
I was like, what? And my mom knows everything. My
Yeah.
mom is a conspiracy woman. She loves it. She researches consistently. She knows, she's read everything.
Uh-huh.
And she was like, I think there was something to that. We need to look into that. There's a spiritual war happening.
You're being summoned.
And I was like, whoa.
Damn.
Maybe, dude.
That's heavy stuff.
Dude, what was I going to go do? I think I was going to go extinguish the bonfire. I think that's the opposite of
You're a
worship.
savior.
I was going to
You're
go
the one
dump
true savior.
ice and water on it. Like, for real. I'm the real one.
Party's over, boys.
Oh, you guys are going to worship this bonfire?
Wrap it up, George W. Bush Sr.
I think there's some spooky stuff going on. I kind of am like a tacit believer. I don't really believe in ghosts, but I do believe in this idea of the phenomena.
Yeah.
I do believe in like this idea of like high strangeness.
Sure.
I lean more to the idea that it's like demonic.
Could be.
But
Could be.
I'm like, aliens are probably demons.
That's a theory. Is that the ancient alien theory is that we're all seeing the same thing, and ufology talks a lot about the idea of throughout time it is just whatever these beings are, whether the ships are biological beings or whatever it may be, that they are presented to us in a way that we can understand. So back then, people would see chariots of fire, biblical things, and whatever their mind could picture, because it's purely a psychic phenomenon, what you're seeing. There's nothing actually tangibly there that you could go grab a ship. U.S. airfighter couldn't chase down and catch the ship. It's there, but it's not. It's not really in our reality. It's bleeding through. And then throughout time, the ships have, the phenomenon has taken different forms that we can slowly grasp more and more and more. So now it looks like discs. Then it looks like orbs, and then it looks like things for whatever reason that we're slowly starting to comprehend it more.
It's an effect of consciousness.
Yes. Yeah.
I spoke to a guy who does CE5, or from the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So he does this like frequently and is able to sort of.
Who did you talk to? Stephen Greer?
No, he was trained by Stephen Greer.
Okay.
So,
I know all about Stephen Greer. He's the coolest.
Well, he's in DC. I've been trying to get him on the program. Yeah,
I love shit like that.
soon. But this guy was trained by him. His name is James Iandoli, and he just said like the first time he did it, he was just like washed with this feeling of euphoria. He was like, it's the greatest thing ever, and he does it pretty frequently.
Yeah.
He got into it because he had like a near-death experience. He was in a car accident, and that was like the first kind of like psychic consciousness thing that ever happened to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was basically saying like he would have these visions. So he gets in this car accident, has a near-death experience, sees a bunch of really weird stuff. I'll spare you the details. 2 days later, he's basically released from the hospital, goes home, and he's sitting in his room. And then all of a sudden, he just doesn't hear anything. He doesn't feel anything. He just goes, oh, they're here again.
Yeah.
And he just knows that there's a craft outside with aliens on it. Mm-hmm. And he walks outside. And again, I don't say aliens because he never saw aliens. He just saw craft. But he goes, oh, of course they're here. He starts to have overlays on his consciousness. So like in the way that we're looking at each other, we can see like, oh, we're in a room. And then all of a sudden he starts to see overlays of visuals of beings in his consciousness.
Yeah.
And so he sees what he describes as the Nordics.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this?
Like the tall whites?
Basically.
Yeah.
And they're in like this kind of strange outfit, and they have blonde hair, and they look like Vikings. Mm-hmm. And he's like seeing them like kind of looking at him and moving around, like overlaid on his consciousness.
They're supposed to be like the good ones, the Nordics, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. And the grays are bad or whatever.
So he sees this, and he walks out of his house, and that's when he sees the craft like for the first time for real. Mm-hmm. Like he saw it once or twice when he was like, or he saw like strange things when he had the near-death experience. But it was 2 days later they actually saw the craft and it was flying around. Yeah, and he was like, it's a consciousness phenomenon. It's like it's not a real craft. It's just happening in my brain. But what's happening in my brain is real because it's trans-dimensional. Yeah, that's what he says.
Exactly. It's trans-dimensional. They're ultra-terrestrial beings, to quote John Keel. They exist outside of space and time. It's purely, maybe the neighbors couldn't see that. He's outside. Mm-hmm. He might be actually outside, but what he's seeing is exclusive to him. Yeah. It doesn't mean he's crazy. It just means that, whatever was happening was exclusive to his psyche.
That's the thing, is that I fully believe that he's telling me the truth of what happened. Yeah. I don't know if I was with him, if I would have seen it. Mm-hmm. He describes experiences later with other people where other people were able to see things. Mm-hmm. But he was like, I believed him. I didn't think he was lying about it. Yeah. And it was a really compelling conversation. It was like pretty freaky.
Well, something like that, I imagine they would pick their moment to where he was alone. They probably wouldn't take him from the kitchen table or whatever.
Well, he wasn't abducted, for the record also. He just saw it. Yeah. What do you think of abduction?
Well, I watched a documentary called Mirage Men. That was very interesting, that the U.S. Air Force used to fake abductions, that they used to sort of implant memories in people for whatever reason, for the purpose of psychological warfare, whether it be against these alien beings or for whatever their purposes are. But I think some of them could have been faked. It used to happen a lot more. In the 70s and the 60s and the 80s, it would happen more. These big publicized cases where maybe there are beings from other planets and the U.S. was trying to get ahead of it and make them seem scary. So if there was some sort of attack, then the public would be like, oh, I heard they probe humans, all that. So I think there was a degree of that misinformation, which the CIA absolutely does do with all kinds of things, particularly UFOs. Yeah, I think it could happen. I think people can definitely visit them. And I think almost 100% of the time, they're not bad. Aliens are good.
Oh, really?
Probably aliens. Whatever the beings are. Because people don't disappear like that. If they wanted to hurt us, they would. They could do it easily if they for whatever reason.
So the grays you're not concerned about?
No, I don't really buy into all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know what I really truly believe, but I like to read about that stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I don't think our world is haunted by grays and reptilians, for the record. But I like to read about it. It's fun.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen Aleister Crowley's interdimensional being that he spoke with.
Yeah. What was it called? Tet?
Lamb.
Lamb.
Yeah, but you've seen what it looks like.
And it looks exactly like a gray.
Like virtually identical. And he illustrated this in like the 30s or 20s, like before Barney Hill's abduction, like before any of this stuff.
Way before the modern UFO age, which only started right after we dropped the bombs on Japan.
Right.
Yeah, which is a weird coincidence.
Well, that's a lot of the UFO people I talk to. They always point that out. They're like, around nuclear activity, there's always UFO sightings. Always. But that also makes sense, right? You're doing a military op. It's like there's probably going to be, some interesting aircraft flying around.
Maybe it was us splitting the atom that let them come through in the first place, or it made the portal bigger, or also it could be both. They're not mutually exclusive. They're trying to protect us from ourselves. There could be a degree of that as well.
Yeah, I don't really know what I believe, but
I don't know.
But I like to look into it, and I like the idea of believing.
Yeah,
but I don't know if I can really say like today, as I sit before you, like, oh yeah, there's aliens visiting Earth. I mean, there's definitely aliens out there, right? Fermi paradox shit, like they're definitely there, but I don't know if they're hanging with us on Earth, or if they're even able to overlay on our consciousness, or
I don't know. Yeah, it could be an angels and demons thing. Who's to say? John Keel, again, not to bring it up, he has a great series of essays called The Outer Limits of the Twilight Zone and Pursuing the Addendum, and all these great books that discuss all that stuff from like the 70s that are really great and easy to digest, and I read them all the time. They're super fun.
Oh, you've read them multiple times?
Yeah, there's like 5 of them with this guy named Andrew B. Colvin who collected them all. It's all from old newspaper articles from like UFO Magazine and all these different things, and it just covers every single aspect of like the phenomenon and whatever. It's interesting.
Is there anything else from those that you've read that you're like, oh, this makes complete sense and more people should know this?
No, it's just mostly the idea of like that it's all related. That was, I think, the big takeaway from his work and his life's work. He was a really interesting guy. He was like an Indiana Jones type guy, and who knows if some of it didn't really happen to them. But he's the Mothman guy, whatever all that Mothman stuff happened to.
Oh, he wrote about that.
Yeah, he wrote the book, The Moth Man Prophecies. Yeah.
Oh. And did he write about that after?
He was there investigating it. So he's like an integral part of the story. He was like in town. It's like a real life X-Files thing. Like he was that guy. He would like go out to different locations. He had a fascinating life. And he would, interview people and try to get evidence and all that. And who knows how much of it actually happened, but they think a lot of, it appears that a lot of it he actually was out there doing in West Virginia while this was happening.
Oh, wow.
That people were seeing a huge UFO flap because they happen in waves. And he would interview all the people and try to make sense of why it was happening. You know, I think he said like most UFOs are seen Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Like just weird things that is like trying to make sense of all this data. And you're like, what? Trying to make sense of it. But it would just drive you crazy. But yeah, wow. He was like an observer.
And so what did he make of Mothman? Does he think that there's a moth being, or does he think it's also part of the phenomena that just manifested this way?
Yeah, it's related. It's some sort of related thing. You have the Indian poster, but it was related. It's the bio on my Instagram. These mysterious American visits of the infamous feathery Garuda. It's this idea throughout history of like a feathery winged being that is a harbinger of some sort of doom, and people think that the Mothman was there to warn them of the impending collapse of the bridge in their town, the Point Pleasant Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Which happened in, I think, 1966.
You ever heard of Nick Pope?
No.
I think you'd like this guy. He was a former Ministry of Defense guy that worked in England and did like 20 years working within the military defense, and then spent 5 or 6 years working specifically on the unknown aerial aircraft department.
Oh, cool.
And so he's one of these guys that's like pretty level. He's like, dude, I don't know if aliens exist or not. He's like, I just compile people's reports. I just take the data and I just turn them into paperwork and submit them into the government.
Wow.
And he's like, we get told when there's military testing that happens. So when people report stuff, we're able to be like, okay, that's likely testing. And then they kind of file those reports under, a testing protocol, and that's just what it is.
For sure.
But whenever there's something that's cited, because again, he's also in charge of checking if there's Chinese, spies, if there's Russian spies.
Yeah.
So
he gets reports and people call in and they talk about things. They talk to journalists. They post on X or Instagram, and he goes and interviews them and takes their statement. And he's like, there have been multiple times where he described to me it's called the Shendelum Forest incident. This is a time where actually it was Americans. This is back in like the 40s, 50s. They saw a craft. One of the guys actually touched it.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty bizarre experience. But the one that he actually saw, there was a guy that actually took a photograph, what he claims was a photograph. And the photograph was never released. It was never supposed to be released. And he claims it's a photograph of a UFO. And he spoke to the head of his department. And the department head was like, hey, we're not talking about this photo anymore. The originals got destroyed. There was a copy of a copy that got made, like an actual illustration that got drawn. And this guy, Nick, had access to one of the copies of the actual photograph that then eventually got leaked out of the Ministry of Defense.
Oh, wow.
And so Nick has this picture. He's like, I don't know if it's a military aircraft. I don't know what it is, but it's a pretty weird looking shaped thing flying that these multiple people saw, and one of them took a photograph of.
Where was this? England?
This is in England.
Yeah.
And he was speaking with one of his superiors, and he was like, hey, we're done talking about
Rendlesham Forest incident?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Rendlesham Forest was a different one. That was back in like the 40s, 50s.
Different.
This one happened in like 2005, 2006. Pretty recent. And his supervisor was like, we're not talking about this picture anymore. We're not going to release it. We're not going to discuss it. And because he's like, it wasn't us, and we know it wasn't Russia. We know it wasn't human. And that only leaves...
Yeah.
And then he stopped talking. And then Nick was like, oh, that's pretty weird. So he came on and described all that to me, and I was like, I don't know what to make of any
You
of
have the
this,
picture?
I do have the
I
photograph.
got to take a peek at this goddamn thing.
I mean, it's crazy.
I'm jumping out my jeans right now.
Here.
The UFO community had never heard of this. August 2nd, 1990, two individuals saw a large diamond-shaped craft hovering a couple of 100 feet. They took 6 photographs. They then contacted a newspaper and said, you're not going to believe this. The newspaper contacted the Ministry of Defense and said, hey, these two guys have seen a UFO. They've got photos. We'd like a line as to what you think this is. Happy to give you a line. But in order to do that, we're going to need the photos and the negatives. Big mistake. The newspaper parted with all of that and never got them back.
Wow.
What exactly happened is a little bit murky. I'm choosing my words very carefully. There is some suggestion of threats. What I will tell you is that one time I went to an intelligence briefing. The briefer pulled out the real photo. He said, take this picture, for example. It's not the United States. It's not Russia. And that only leaves...
Is that a plane under it?
That is an aircraft. That's one that he talks about in the episode.
Wow. It could be a perspective thing, but it looks like a really big craft.
So he talks about other things where he had to take, word from people about different craft that people saw. And he was like, there was one where it was like 30 people over the span of like 25 miles talked about a giant football field. It was literally the size of a football field flying over this one village in England.
Wow.
And he was like, we don't know what it was. We don't know where it came from. I don't think it's UFOs. But he's like, I had to take the record. And there were 30 people that all had the same exact report.
Whoa. That happened in, there's a great Unsolved Mysteries that happened in Massachusetts in like the 90s or something. A lot of people saw it. It's really crazy. It happens over Lake Michigan all the time. There's some sort of connection with water. We'll talk about it later. We'll circle back to it.
Yeah, we'll get back.
I could talk about that stuff forever.
Casey
So fun.
Rocket.
Thank you.
This has been absolutely fabulous. I really enjoyed this. I feel like we got to the bottom of some of my favorite internet mysteries. We got to share some fabulous lost film stories.
Yes.
And I think we figured out what's going on with these aliens.
And I bought the rights to John A. Keel's books, so if you buy them, I get a direct cut of it.
Is that true?
No.
I was about to say, if that's the case, we're making a film.
He writes in a very interesting way, so I think if you're interested about that, John Keel is a good way to start. And CaseyRocketComedy.com. I'm on tour. I have 20 more cities to go to the rest of this year, so.
Oh, let's go.
So fun.
And you're also going to be appearing in The Day the Clown Cried, The Day the Clown Cried, too. You're gonna
Yes,
be
I
in that one.
am.
Yeah.
Yes, the day the crowns.
Yeah, fucking got you, dude.
You passed it on to me like a thought form. Interesting.
Oh, let's do this again soon, Mr. Rocket.
So fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.